The rain against my apartment window was a familiar rhythmic patter, a soothing drumbeat against the quiet hum of my PC. Outside, Stockholm was draped in the cool, wet silver of a late autumn evening. Streetlights bled soft halos onto the slick cobblestones below, and the city felt asleep, tucked away and dreaming. Inside, however, in the warm glow of my triple monitor setup, I was wide awake. My world wasn't one of minimalist Scandinavian furniture and gray skies. It was a sprawling continent of impossible mountains and shimmering magic called Ethelgerd. Most people who saw me would probably guess I was a design student or maybe a junior programmer at some tech startup. They wouldn't be entirely wrong. By day, I was a Laura Vance, polishing my dissertation on database architecture. But by night, and in the secret corners of the digital world, I was two other people. The first was Seraphina, a level-capped priestess of the Azure Light, known in our guild for her clutch heels and unwavering loyalty. The second, a persona known to only a handful of senior developers, was Warden Dodd. As Warden, I wasn't a player. I was a custodian, a silent guardian with access to the game's very source code. I fixed bugs, monitored for cheaters, and maintained the delicate balance of the universe that millions of players called their second home. A quick check of the Warden console showed a flurry of flagged reports. Another gold farming botnet had sprung up in the eastern steppes. With a few keystrokes, I isolated the network of accounts, traced their origin to a single IP block, and scheduled them for the next bandwave. A quiet satisfaction settled in me. Justice. It was neat, clean, and absolute. With my duties done, I logged out of the Warden account, the system's stark command lines dissolving back into the familiar, colorful login screen of Ethelgard. It was time to be Seraphina, the moment I materialized in the bustling capital city of Silverwood. A private message chimed. "Zypher, you're finally here. I was starting to think you'd stood me up." A smile bloomed on my face, involuntary and warm. Seraphina, never, had to deal with some real-life stuff. "You ready for this?" My hands are literally shaking. "Zypher, born ready, Sira, voice chat. It'll be easier to coordinate." I clicked the icon, and his voice, clear and confident, filled my headset. "There she is," Leo said, his American accent a familiar comfort. "The best priestess in all of Ethelgard." "Don't flatter me, Leo." I laughed, my character on screen mirroring the motion with a little bow. "You just need my heels." "I always need your heels," he said, his tone softening slightly. "But tonight is different. 6 months, Alara. 6 months we've been working towards this." He used my real name. He was the only one in the game I trusted with it. We'd met a year ago, two relative newbies fumbling through a low-level dungeon. I'd accidentally pulled an entire room of goblins, and he, a clumsy warrior, had charged in to save me. We both died, of course, but we spent the next 10 minutes laughing about it while running back to our corpses. From there, a friendship bloomed. We leveled together, grinded for gear together, and formed the core of what would eventually become a respected mid-tier guild. He was Zypher, the charismatic leader. I was Seraphina, his quiet, dependable second-in-command. We talked every day about the game, about our lives, his sunny days in Miami, my rainy ones in Stockholm. I'd seen pictures of his golden retriever, and he'd listened patiently to my complaints about my university professors. He was my best friend, and if I was being truly honest with myself in the dead of night, I had a colossal, undeniable crush on him. 6 months, I repeated, my voice a little breathless. "All for one item, not just one item," he corrected me. "The only item, the heart of the world serpent. A true legendary. No one on our server has one." The quest had been grueling. It involved deciphering ancient texts, hunting down esoteric components from every corner of the map, and defeating a series of brutal sub-bosses, each requiring a unique and maddeningly difficult strategy. We were the only two people on the server who had managed to assemble the key to the final chamber, the Serpent's Maw. Okay, I said, taking a deep breath and flexing my fingers over my keyboard. I'm stocked on potions, my gear is fully repaired, and I've read the strategy guide so many times I think I've memorized it. Let's do this. That's my girl, he said. Meet me at the entrance. Our date with destiny awaits. I teleported to the desolate, rocky wasteland where the dungeon entrance lay hidden. It was a massive carved serpent's head, its stone mouth agape, a shimmering portal of sickly green energy swirling within. Leo was already there, his character, Cypher, looking magnificent in his full set of obsidian plate armor, the Crimson Legion guild tag floating proudly above his head. He gave my character a wave as I approached. You look nervous, his voice crackled in my ear. I am, I admitted. This is it. The final door. We'll be fine, he said with that unshakable confidence I admired so much. You and me, Sarah, we're unstoppable. Always have been. My heart did a little flutter. Focus, Alara. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Okay, let's go. Together, we stepped through the portal. The air inside the Serpent's Maw was thick and heavy, tasting of ozone and decay. The dungeon wasn't a traditional cave. It was the petrified insides of a colossal, ancient beast. The walls were ribbed like a thoracic cavity, pulsing with a faint, bioluminescent green light. Strange, fleshy tendrils hung from the ceiling, occasionally twitching. The ground squelched under our boots. Charming place, I muttered, my voice. Tight. Smells like the inside of a dead fish. Leo chuckled. Just focus on the path. The guide said the first chamber is full of acidic spitters. We need to stay mobile and watch for the ground effects. He was right. As we advanced, the ground began to bubble and grotesque. Slug-like creatures emerged, spewing arcs of sizzling green acid. Leo charged in, his massive two-handed axe cleaving through them with brutal efficiency. I stayed back, my hands glowing. With holy light, weaving spells of protection around him and sending out blasts of sacred fire to scorch the creatures that tried to flank him. A spray of acid caught him, and his health bar dipped dangerously. Panic is the enemy. I chanted a swift incantation, and a pillar of golden light erupted around him, knitting his wounds closed. Cypher, nice save. That one almost got me. Seraphina. Just try not to stand in the glowing green puddles of death, okay? Cypher, where's the fun in that? We fell into our familiar rhythm, a dance of steel and spellfire honed over countless hours. Leo was the hammer, pure aggression and force. I was the scalpel, precise, reactive, and strategic. We moved as one entity, anticipating each other's moves without needing to speak. We cleared the first chamber, then the second, a labyrinth of pulsating nerve clusters that we had to deactivate in a specific sequence while fending off swarms of parasitic sprites. The third chamber was a river of digestive fluid we had to cross by hopping on floating, semi-submerged bones, all while being attacked by tentacled horrors from below. In that third chamber, I slipped. A tentacle wrapped around my character's ankle, dragging me under. My screen filled with the murky green liquid, my breath meter depleting rapidly. I was flailing, disoriented. Just as my health was about to hit zero, Leo dove in after me. He cleaved the tentacle in two and used a special warrior ability, an intercepting charge, to grab me and launch both of us back onto a safe platform. Got you, he said, his character breathing heavily beside mine. I told you, I'd never let anything happen to you. My heart was pounding, both from the in-game peril and his words. Thanks, Leo. I owe you one. You can pay me back by keeping me alive for the final boss. he said, his voice light again. Deal? Deal? I whispered. Finally, we reached the heart of the mall. It was a vast, cavernous chamber. In the center, suspended by enormous, vein-like arteries, was a colossal, pulsating organ. This was the source of the dungeon's corruption, and guarding it was the world serpent's avatar. It was a nightmare made manifest. A 20-foot-tall humanoid figure made of writhing green snakes, with a single malevolent red eye in the center of its face. It let out a deafening hiss as we entered, the sound echoing through the cavern and shaking my screen. Okay, Leo said, his voice grim. This is it. All or nothing. Remember the plan. I keep its attention, you stay at max range and burn it down. When it starts the decay coil, I need a greater spell immediately, or it's a wipe. When it summons the Vipers, you switch to a OE. Got it? Got it, I replied. My fingers poised dot, he let out a warrior's cry and charged. The fight began. It was the most intense battle of my gaming career. The avatar hit like a freight train, and I was pouring every ounce of my mana into keeping Leo alive. Spells flew from my fingertips, shields, heals, buffs, holy attacks. My screen was a kaleidoscope of spell effects, health bars, and cooldown. Timers. Leo was a master, perfectly positioning the boss, dodging its sweeping tail attacks and interrupting its most dangerous casts. We were doing it. We were actually doing it. The boss's health dwindled. 70%, 50%, 30%. It's enraged, Leo shouted. Burn everything you have now. He was right. The avatar was glowing a furious red, its attacks faster, more brutal. I popped every cooldown I had, my mana bar plummeting. My most powerful healing spells, my damage-boosting abilities, my emergency divine shield, I used them all. The boss's health dropped to 5%, then 2%, then 1%. He's almost down. I yelled, my voice hoarse. One more hit. Leo's axe glowed with power as he activated his ultimate ability, Executioner's Strike. The axe came down in a brilliant, fiery arc, and the world serpent's avatar froze. It let out one final agonized hiss, then exploded into a shower of shimmering green light and pixels. Silence. We stood there for a second, panting in our respective apartments a continent apart, our characters catching their breath on screen. And then, in the center of the room, a magnificent, ornate chest materialized. We did IT. Leo screamed in my ear, his voice filled with pure, unadulterated joy. Oh my God, Sarah, we did it. I was laughing, tears of relief and happiness pricking my eyes. We did it. We actually did it. I ran to the chest, my character's feet splashing in the residual pools of ectoplasm. I opened it. And there, floating, in the center, was our prize. The heart of the world serpent. It was a pulsating crystalline orb, radiating an aura of immense power. The item description was staggering. The stats were god tier. It was, without a doubt, the most powerful item in the game. Seraphina, it's beautiful. I typed, my fingers still trembling. Zephyr. We earned it. Then. A notification popped up on my screen, jarring and out of place. System. Zephyr has challenged you to a duel. I blinked. Leo, I said into my mic, what are you doing? Stop joking around. There was no response. Just the soft hum of the game's ambient sounds. Before I could even process it, his character lunged. His axe, the same one that had saved my wife, just minutes before, slammed into my character. My health bar, already low on resources from the boss fight, vanished in an instant. The critical hit text flashed across my screen in huge, blood-red letters. My priestess, Seraphina, crumpled to her knees. My screen washed over with a desaturated gray filter. Across the middle, in stark white letters, were the words, every player. Dreads, you are dead, I stared, uncomprehending. The shock was a physical thing, a punch to the gut that left me breathless. Leo? What the hell? I said, my voice shaking. What just happened? Silence. Then, two more notifications popped up in my chat log, one after the other. System, you have been slain by Zypher. System, Zypher has looted. Heart of the world serpent. The world tilted. No. It had to be a mistake. A horrible, cruel joke. I tried to whisper him in game. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Woby Zypher, what are you doing? System, player. Not found. Player, not found. He unfriended me. My blood ran cold. I quickly tabbed out of the game and opened Discord, clicking on his name. I tried to send a message. Your message could not be delivered. This is usually because you don't share a server with the recipient, or the recipient is only accepting direct messages from friends. He blocked me. He blocked me on Discord. I clicked on our guild server icon. It was gone from my list. I'd been kicked, banned in the space of 30 seconds. He hadn't just killed me and stolen our prize. He had systematically erased me from our shared digital life. A life we had spent a year building. My apartment was silent. The only sound was the gentle, relentless patter of the rain on the glass. On my main monitor, my character's ghost floated above her corpse in the gray, empty boss room. The chest was gone. He was gone. Everything was gone. The victory, the friendship, the trust. All of it a lie. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. All I felt was a vast, hollow emptiness. A coldness that had nothing to do with the Stockholm autumn outside. I stared at the screen, at the corpse of the character I had poured so much of myself into, and the name of her killer floating above her. Zypher, Leo, my friend. The shock slowly began to recede, and in its place, something else began to bubble up. Something dark and cold and heavy. It started in my stomach and crept up my chest, tightening around my throat. It wasn't sadness. It was the icy, crystalline precursor to rage. He thought he had just betrayed a player. He thought he had betrayed his friend, Alara. He had no idea who he had really wronged. For a long time, I just sat there. My screensaver eventually kicked in, plunging the room into darkness save for the faint pulsating glow of my PC's tower. The rain had softened to a persistent drizzle. Each tiny sound, the ticking of the clock on the wall, the gentle hum of the refrigerator felt amplified in the suffocating silence. The ghost of Serafina, my digital self, had been unceremoniously booted back to the nearest graveyard. A lonely, windswept patch of land dotted with crumbling angel statues. The grayness of that in-game environment was a perfect mirror for the hollow ache that had carved out my insides. It was a special kind of pain, the kind that only digital betrayal can inflict. It's not just about a game or some pixels on a screen. It's about the time. The hundreds of hours invested, the shared laughter over voice chat, the sleepy late-night conversations that blurred the line between gaming and genuine friendship. Leo hadn't just stolen a legendary item. He had taken a year of my life, a year of my trust, and shattered it into a million worthless fragments. He'd made me feel like a fool, and that was an insult I couldn't swallow. I closed my eyes, picturing his face from the photos he'd sent. Leo in Miami, grinning on a sun-drenched beach, his golden retriever at his side. Leo, the charismatic guild leader. Leo, my friend. The warmth I used to feel when thinking of him was gone, replaced by something frigid and sharp. The hurt wasn't leaving. It was crystallizing, transforming from a messy, emotional wound into a hard, clear, diamond-like point of focus. My breathing, once ragged with shock, evened out. My trembling hands became still. My hurt, which had felt like a panicked bird beating against my ribs, settled into a slow, heavy, deliberate rhythm. Thump, 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 like a war drum. He thought he was safe. He blocked me, kicked me, and hidden behind the anonymity of the internet. He was in Miami, thousands of miles away, probably laughing with his real-life friends, showing off his new ill-gotten prize. He believed he was untouchable, a grave miscalculation. My fingers moved with renewed purpose. With a flick of the mouse, I dismissed the gray graveyard screen. I didn't log out. I opened a different application, one that wasn't on the public-facing game launcher. A simple black command line interface blinked to life on my central monitor. Casting a stark white glow on my face, enter credentials, I typed in my username. Warden. My password was a complex 32-character alphanumeric string that I had committed. To memory. A series of security checks flashed across the screen. Two-factor authentication pinged my phone. I entered the code. The system then performed a biometric scan, a tiny, almost invisible reader built into my monitor frame, mapping the unique vein patterns in my eye. Access granted. Welcome, Warden. The simple text editor morphed into a complex dashboard of tools and data streams. This was the game's central nervous system. I could see everything. Real-time server loads, player distribution maps, economic flowcharts, flag chat logs. Everything that happened in Ethelgerd, from the smallest goblin being slain to the largest guild war, was recorded here. Every action, every transaction, every keystroke. It was a fire hose of information that would be overwhelming to anyone else. To me, it was home. I ignored the blinking alerts and the mean queue. The botnet in the eastern steppes could wait. My priority had shifted. My first query was simple./search.player_logs uzypher TL24H. I was searching for all activity associated with the username Ziffer in the last 24 hours. The system churned for less than a second before a mountain of data flooded my screen. I saw our entire quest, logged in excruciating detail. Timestamps of every monster killed, every potion consumed, every word we exchanged in private chat. My eyes scanned down to the final entry, 22 hours, 14 minutes, and 31 seconds. GMT event, player_kill-attacker, Zypher, UID, 7781B482, target, Sarafina. UID 1138C9F7, location, Serpent's Maw, instance ID 994B, damage 48,912. Critical, ability, Executioner's Strike, 22 hours, 14 minutes, and 33 seconds GMT, event, Loot Actor, Zypher, UID 7781B482, target_corpse, Serafina, UID 1138C9F7, item_ID LGND_001 Serpent Heart, unique, 22 hours, 14 minutes, and 59 seconds. GMT event, social actor, Zypher, UID 7781. B482 action, unfree and target, Serafina. UID 1138C9F7, 22 hours, 15 minutes, and 8 seconds GMT. Event, guild_admin actor, Zypher. UID 7781B482, action, kick TRG, Serafina. UID 1138C9F7. Guild, Crimson Legion, it was all there. A cold, impartial transcript of my own heartbreak. Seeing it laid out in sterile lines of code stripped away the last vestiges of my grief, replacing it with pure, unadulterated fury. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated. The timing, the unfriend, the kick was too fast, too efficient. He had this planned all along. Every word of encouragement, every shared laugh, every moment of camaraderie on our 6-month journey. It was all part of a long con. A simple ban was the standard procedure for this kind of player-on-player theft. I could type one command right now, / ban.player, uid7781b4a2, T permanent, R griefing. Ninja looting, and Leo would be gone. He'd log in tomorrow and find his account locked. He'd be furious. He'd probably break a keyboard. And then, after a few days of raging on forums, he'd move on. He'd find a new game, a new community to exploit. He would feel a moment of frustration. I wanted him to feel despair. A simple ban was justice. I wanted retribution. Poetic Justice. The Warden toolset wasn't just for banning players. It was for understanding the game's ecosystem. And to dismantle an ecosystem, you first have to map it out. My fingers danced across the keyboard. Leo thought his digital life was compartmentalized. He thought Zypher the guild leader, Zypher the friend, and whatever other shady dealings he had were separate. I was about to prove him wrong. I started cross-referencing his unique user ID with other logs. /search.chat_logs. UID7781B4A2 KRMT, real money, sell gold, PayPal, Venmo. The system lit up like a Christmas tree. Hundreds of hits. I opened the first one. It was a private message from Zypher to another player. Dated 3 months ago. Zypher. Hey man, saw you got the Sunfire Greaves. Grats. You looking to sell? I can do 250 United States dollars, PayPal friends and family. This was a major violation of the terms of service. Real money trading, or RMT, was the cancer of online gaming economies. It destabilized the market, incentivized hacking and botting, and was strictly forbidden. And here was Leo, the charismatic guild leader, not just participating, but brokering deals. I kept digging. He wasn't just a buyer, he was a major seller. He was using the Crimson Legion as his personal farm. Their guild bank, which was supposed to be a shared resource, was his personal warehouse. He would use his position of authority to acquire rare items, either by manipulating guild loot rules or by taking them directly, and then flip them for real-world cash. My disgust deepened. The Crimson Legion wasn't a guild of friends, as he'd always claimed. It was his stable of unpaid laborers. Dozens of players, all working for the glory of the guild, while he skimmed the profits off the top. I pulled up the logs for his guild. Bank transactions, withdrawals, all made by him. All of the most valuable, rarest materials and items, all deposited into a personal, hidden bank account on an alternate character, a low-level character named Banker Boy, that he clearly thought was untraceable. Sloppy. The Warden tools made connecting the dots trivial. Banker Boy logged in from the same IP address as Zypher. A quick cross-reference of that IP with financial transaction flags on our third-party security partner's side painted an even uglier picture. Leo Rossi of Miami, Florida had processed over $15,000 in illicit sales in the last year alone. He wasn't just a gamer, he was a black marketeer. In the heart of the world, Serpent. That wasn't just a trophy for him. That was his biggest payday yet. A one-of-a-kind legendary item like that could easily fetch $5,000. Maybe more. This changed everything. This wasn't about a stolen item anymore. This was about a systemic infection. He was a predator, and his guild was his hunting ground. My personal betrayal was just a symptom of a much larger disease. And as the Warden, it was my job to cure it. But the cure wouldn't be a quick, clean amputation. No, the disease was too deep. You don't cure cancer with a Band-Aid. You use chemotherapy. You attack the sickness on a cellular level, turning its own systems against it until it collapses from within. A plan began to form in my mind, not born of rage, but of cold architectural precision, a 5-act play of my own. Leo built his empire on 3 pillars: his wealth, his reputation, and his power. I would dismantle all three, one by one, in a way that he would never be able to trace back to me or even to a moderator. I would make him believe the world he had so carefully constructed was simply, inexplicably, falling apart around him. I would make him the author of his own destruction. My first target would be his wealth. That hidden banker boy, was his war chest. It held all the items he was preparing to sell. Destroying it would be a significant financial blow and, more importantly, would make him start to sweat. A simple item deletion would be too obvious. An admin action leaves a log, however hidden. I needed something more elegant. I delved into the server's code, my fingers flying. I searched for obscure, rarely triggered server events. Bugs that had been patched years ago but whose legacy code remained, dormant and forgotten in the game's spaghetti-like architecture. And then I found it. A beautiful, perfect little relic from the game's beta phase. A data corruption bug linked to a specific tile in a specific, rarely visited warehouse in a remote desert city. The bug was simple. If a player stood on this exact tile and opened their bank during the server's nightly maintenance and data backup cycle, there was a 0.001% chance of a data write error, causing the player's entire bank inventory to be wiped clean. It was deemed so rare that the original developers had never bothered to properly remove the flawed code, simply patching over it and flagging it as a non-issue .0.001%. A statistical impossibility. But as warden, I could change the odds. I located Banker Boy. He was, as expected, logged out inside that very warehouse. I pulled up the code for the nightly maintenance script. It was a complex beast, but I knew my way around it. I found the line that governed the data write check for that specific tile. If random chance equals 0.00000 on. I smiled. A thin, cold smile that didn't reach my eyes. My first act of divine intervention. I changed the number if random chance equals 1.0. Now, it wasn't a chance. It was a certainty. The moment the nightly maintenance script ran in 3 hours, Banker Boy's entire inventory, every piece of gold, every rare material, every hoarded epic item would be irrevocably wiped. Not deleted by an admin, but erased by a freak server glitch. It would be a tragedy, a 1 in a billion accident. The support ticket he would inevitably file would be met with shrugs and apologies from the low-level GMS. We're sorry for your loss, but we cannot restore items lost due to server errors. It was written right there in the terms of service. A clause I had helped write myself. The first domino was set, the first crack in his foundation. He would lose his fortune, and he would have no one to blame but the cruel, random hand of fate. I leaned back in my chair, the tension in my shoulders easing for the first time in hours. The rain had stopped. In the east, the first hint of dawn was beginning to paint the Swedish sky in shades of bruised purple and gray. This was no longer about my own hurt feelings. This was about restoring balance. This was about delivering a lesson that Leo would never forget. He wanted to be a legend in Ethelgard. I would make him one. He would be a cautionary tale, a ghost. Story players told their new guildmates. A story of a great Cypher, a man who had it all, and then for some unknown reason was simply erased. I looked at the warden console, at the immense, silent power at my fingertips. The power to create and the power to destroy. Leo had used his power to hurt and to steal. My turn. The sun was fully up now, casting long shadows across my floor. I hadn't slept. I hadn't even felt the need to. The cold fury from the night before had settled into a state of hyper-aware, crystalline focus. I had a fresh cup of coffee steaming beside my keyboard, its bitter aroma the only thing grounding me in my quiet Stockholm apartment. On my screen, the world of Ethelgerd was waking up, its digital sun rising over pixelated mountains. But my attention wasn't on the scenery. It was on the log dot at precisely 4 o'clock GMT. The nightly maintenance script had executed. And at 4 hours, 1 minute, and 17 seconds GMT, my trigger had fired. A new entry appeared in the system error. Log.critical_error 0 by 8007000E. Insufficient. Memory resources. Module player_bank_right.dlluid 9551D2E8. Player banker boy. Location tile X78 Y199Z3 Alkmaar warehouse ACTON. Bank inventory right failed. Data dump return null. Inventory 0. A perfect, beautiful, tragic accident. I cross-referenced the user ID with the support ticket queue. Sure enough, there he was. A ticket submitted at 6:32 GMT, just as Leo must have woken up in Miami to check on his hoard. The tone was apoplectic. Ticket number 884,190. My entire bank is gone. Username, Zypher subject. All my items wiped, URG antibody. I logged onto my alt and everything is gone. Years of work. Millions of gold. Countless rare materials. Epic items. This is a catastrophic bug. You need to do a full restore immediately. This is unacceptable. I am one of your most dedicated players. Fix this now. I could almost hear his voice, stripped of its usual smooth charisma and replaced with raw, panicked rage. I flagged the ticket and assigned it to a junior GM in the European division, adding a private administrative note. Standard procedure. Check logs for admin action, none found. Check for known bugs, none found. Issue standard no restore apology, close ticket. The junior GM would do his job, find no evidence of wrongdoing or verifiable bug, and send Leo a polite, soul-crushing message expressing deep regret, but offering no solution. The first pillar of his empire, his wealth, had been turned to dust, and he had no one to blame but the gods of random chance. A cold smile touched my lips. Stage 1 was complete. It was time for Stage 2, his reputation. A guild is a fragile thing built on trust and shared success. Without those, it's just a list of names. The Crimson Legion saw Zypher as a brilliant leader, a charismatic visionary who led them to glory. I needed to change that perception. I needed them to see him as a liability, a failure, a king who had lost his touch. That evening, the Crimson Legion had their weekly scheduled raid. The Obsidian Citadel, a notoriously difficult dungeon that required flawless execution. Its final boss, the Magma Lord, had a chance to drop the coveted Helm of Smoldering Defiance, a piece of gear Leo desperately wanted for himself. I knew he would be on edge, eager to reassert his authority and score a big win after the mornings. Disaster. I, as warden, would be watching. I made myself invisible and teleported into the instance, a silent, unseen specter hovering high above the raid group. I watched them, 25 players moving as one, their guild tags a sea of red. Leo's voice, filtered through the warden's audio surveillance tool, was tight and commanding. "All right, people, listen up," he barked. "No mistakes tonight. We've failed on this boss 3 weeks in a row. That ends now. Mages, watch your positioning. Healers, call out your mana breaks. Melee, for the love of God, do not stand in the fire." They performed well at first. They cleared the trash mobs efficiently and reached the Magma Lord's chamber. The fight began, a chaotic ballet of fire and steel. I watched them, but my focus was on the numbers running in my warden console, the complex algorithms that governed. The game's random number generator, or RNG, every sword swing, every spell cast, Every item drop was determined by a roll of the dice. And I was about to start loading the dice. The first phase went smoothly, but as the boss hit 75% health, it was time. The Magma Lord's primary mechanic was summoning fiery tornadoes that would move randomly across the platform. A small, almost insignificant tweak to the pathing algorithm was all it took. Instead of moving randomly, the tornadoes now had a subtle but undeniable attraction to the raid's healers. The first healer, a player named Miri, screamed over the voice chat, "Tornado on me, it's following me." "Just move out of it, Miri," Leo yelled, his voice strained. "It's random, but it wasn't." Miri ran, but the tornado tracked her, zoning her away from the tanks. The main tank's health dipped sharply. The second healer tried to compensate, but another tornado immediately spawned and moved toward him. Panic began to ripple through the group. "What is this?" someone shouted. "The RNG is cursed tonight." They managed to survive the phase, but their resources were depleted. Then came the next phase. The boss would periodically shatter, splitting into a dozen smaller magma elementals. The raid had to kill them all within 30 seconds, or they would reform, healing the boss to full. It was a pure DPS check. I watched their damage numbers on my console. They were good. They could do this. But a few lines of code was all it took. I applied a hidden temporary debuff to the elementals, a 10% increase to their magic resistance. It was a ghost modifier, completely invisible to the players. Their mages and warlocks began to unload, but the elementals' health bars weren't dropping as fast as they should. "More damage," Leo roared. "Burn them, what are you all doing?" "We are burning them," a mage retorted, his voice filled with frustration. "My crits are barely scratching them." They missed the timer by 3 seconds. The elementals reformed, and the Magma Lord was back at full health. A collective groan went through the raid. They tried again, and again, and again. Each time I introduced a new, subtle misfortune, a slight increase in the boss's parry chance, a fractional decrease in the healer's critical heal chance. Tiny, statistically insignificant changes that, when combined, created a perfect storm of failure. They weren't just being unlucky. They were being systematically unlucky. After the fourth wipe, the raid fell apart. Morale was shattered. "This is pointless," one of their main tanks typed in guild chat. "The game feels broken tonight. I'm out." Players started dropping from the group one by one, offering tired excuses. Leo was left standing in the instance with a handful of his remaining officers. His fury was palpable, even through the text. "LOGs, Zypher, unbelievable. A bunch of quitters. This is my guild." Pathetic. His rage wasn't directed at the game. It was directed at his own people. He was losing control. I gave him 2 days to stew in his own failure. 2 days of his guild chat being filled with whispers and complaints. Then it was time. For stage 3, it was time to give their frustration a name. I created a new account. A level 1 character with a randomized, forgettable name, Gillip. I bought a single sheet of stationery from a vendor and typed out a short, simple message. I had analyzed the Crimson Legion's roster and identified 2 key lieutenants. The first was a grizzled, veteran tank named Borleg, a player who valued loyalty and fairness above all else. The second was the healer, Miri, who I knew from listening to their chats was the heart of the guild, the one everyone trusted. They were the 2 people Leo relied on the most. They were the ones who would feel his betrayal most keenly. I sent them each the same mail, subject: a question for the Legion body. You fight for your guild's glory. You spend your own gold on repairs. You spend hours helping your guildmates, but where does the real treasure go? Ask yourselves, when was the last time the guild bank was audited? Who has unlimited withdrawal access? Your king is wearing no clothes. A friend thought it was vague. It was unverifiable, but it was a seed. A seed of doubt planted in the fertile soil of their recent frustration. I didn't include any hard evidence. That would be too suspicious. I just gave them a nudge, a reason to look. I knew their curiosity and their loyalty to the guild, rather than just to Leo, would do the rest. Then I sat back and watched. It took less than a day. I saw Borlag log in and, after a moment's hesitation, go to the guild bank in the capital city. He didn't have access to the transaction logs himself, but he could see the last withdrawn by tab. The name Zypher appeared, over and over and over again. He stood there for a full 10 minutes, motionless. Then he sent a private message to Miri. Borlag, Miri, we need to talk. Did you get a strange mail yesterday? Miri, yes, about the bank? I thought it was just a troll. Borlag, it's not a troll. Go look at the public ledger. Page after page, it's all him. Everything of value we have deposited for months. He's taken it. Miri, no. That can't be right. There must be an explanation. He uses it to buy flasks and pots for the raid, right? Borlag, does he? Because I spent 500 gold on my own repairs last night. How much did you spend? The silence in their chat log was deafening. I could feel Miri's dawning horror. I then saw her go to the bank herself. More silence. Miri, oh my god. The Heartstone of Antheles, the dragon scale cloak, all the primal nethers. Borlag, it's all gone. The seed had sprouted. Leo, oblivious, logged in later that day, his mood already foul. He immediately launched into a tirade in guild chat. Zypher, all right, people. Tonight we are doing progression attempts on the Magma Lord again, and this time, nitrogen monoxide 1 is leaving. Until he is dead. I don't care if it takes all night. Anyone who bails early is getting a key kick. We need to get our act together, but his authority was gone. The tone of the chat had changed. Borlag, Zypher. Maybe we should talk about why our morale is so low first. Zypher, morale is low because people are lazy. We just need to execute. The strategy. Miri, Leo, some of us have some questions. About guild resources? Zypher, what about them? I manage them. That's my job as guild leader. Your job is to show up and do your job. Now let's get ready to raid. He was dismissing them, arrogant, imperious. The charismatic friend was gone, replaced by a paranoid tyrant. He was panicking, trying to reestablish control through force, but he didn't realize that the ground beneath, his feet had already washed away. The unraveling was beautiful to watch. It was a slow-motion implosion, orchestrated by whispers and nudges. He was surrounded by his most loyal followers, but he was completely alone. He was a king standing in his throne room, screaming orders, unaware that his entire court was sharpening, their knives behind his back. And I, the ghost in the machine, was watching it all, my finger resting on the button that would bring the whole castle down. But not yet. Not yet. He needed to suffer more. He needed to feel the walls closing in. The storm I had seeded was ready to break. I didn't have to wait long. Leo, in his infinite arrogance, tried to force the issue. He scheduled the raid for the next evening and expected his legion to fall in line. Instead, he logged on to find his guild's Discord server in chaos. Borlag and Miri had called a guild-wide meeting without his permission. He tried to shut it down, but it was too late. The dam of silence had broken. I watched it all unfold through my warden console, a silent observer at a digital trial. The chat log scrolled by like a screenplay. Zypher, what is the meaning of this? I am the guild leader here. Meeting dismissed. Everyone start preparing for the raid. Borlag, no, we're not raiding tonight, Leo. We're talking about the bank. Zypher, I already told you I manage the bank. End of story. This is insubordination. Miri, it's not insubordination to ask where our resources are going. We looked at the ledgers, Leo. Everything of value. Everything we all worked for, you took it. Just tell us why. Mary's plea was genuine. She was giving him a chance to explain himself, to salvage some piece of the man she thought was her friend. It was a chance he was too proud and too guilty to take. Cypher, what I do with the resources is my business. I am the one who built this guild. I am the one who makes the decisions. You are all nothing without my leadership. You should be thanking me, not questioning me. His words were gasoline on a fire. The fury of the members, once a low grumble, erupted. Dozens of them began speaking at once, their text a blur of anger and accusations. They brought up old grievances, questionable loot distributions, broken promises. It was a full-blown mutiny. Borlag built this guild. We all built it, Leo. And you used it as your personal piggy bank. We're done. A flurry of notifications flooded the log.system. System. Borlag has left the guild. System. Miri has left the guild. System. Kalim has left the guild. System. Fizzlewick has left the guild. System. Rurik has left the guild. It was an exodus. In the space of 5 minutes, the Crimson Legion, once a proud and powerful guild of 25 dedicated members, was reduced to a shell. Only a handful of the newest recruits, who were too bewildered to understand what was happening, remained. Leo was a king with no subjects, a general with no army. His reaction was pure, unfiltered panic. He sent a flurry of angry, desperate private messages to Borlag and Miri, a mix of threats and pathetic pleas. They all went unanswered. He had been exiled. His second pillar, his power and reputation, had crumbled into dust, swept away by the very people who had once propped him up. He stayed logged in for hours, standing alone in the now empty guild hall, a silent, pathetic figure. I knew what he was thinking. He had lost his guild, his RMT income stream was gone, but he still had one ace left in the hole. He still had the heart of the world serpent. That one item was still worth thousands of real-world dollars. It was his golden parachute, his escape. Planned out as warden, part of my duties involved monitoring third-party forums known for black market RMT. It was a grimy, unpleasant task, but necessary to keep track of the major players. I ran a search for Heart of the World Serpent, and there it was. A new listing posted less than an hour ago on a notorious German forum. The seller's username was Miami Heat 77. The description was detailed, boasting of its unique status on the server. The asking price, 5,000 euros. Got you. This was the final nail, the proof that tied everything together. His motivation for betraying me wasn't just about in-game status. It was about a massive real-world payday. My personal hurt suddenly felt validated on a new level. This wasn't just a friend being a jerk. This was grand larceny. My fingers flew across the warden console. It was time to take his final pillar. I accessed the item administration menu, a tool so powerful it was used less than a dozen times a year, usually to fix catastrophic server-breaking bugs. /item.admin.search. Item LGND_00on_serpent heart greater than result. One instance found greater than owner. Cypher. UID 7781B4A2. Status. Account bound initiated a command. //item.admin.quarantine. A confirmation dialog popped up, demanding a reason for this high-level action. I typed it in carefully. Item flagged for potential involvement in illicit third-party transactions. Pending investigation by 2's compliance team. I hit enter. In Miami, Leo must have been staring at the item in his inventory, dreaming of the money. And then it would have simply vanished. In its place, he would have received a cold, terrifying, system-generated in-game mail. I knew. the template by heart because I had helped write it, from Ethelgerd's system. Administration subject, notification of item quarantine greetings. Player, this is an automated message to inform you that an item in your possession, Heart of the World Serpent, has been placed into administrative quarantine pending a full investigation by our terms of service. Compliance team. This action is taken when an item is flagged by our systems for potential association with prohibited activities, including but not limited to real money trading, RMT. The investigation timeline is indeterminate. You will be contacted if and when a resolution is reached. Please do not submit a support ticket regarding this matter, as our GMs do not have access to twos. Compliance investigations. Thank you for your cooperation. Ethelgerd System Administration. It was the perfect corporate prison. He couldn't argue. He couldn't appeal. His most valuable asset was gone, locked away in a bureaucratic black hole from which nothing ever returned. He was left with nothing, no guild, no money, no legendary prize, just the smoking ruins of his digital life, but I wasn't finished. Wiping his assets and destroying his guild was justice. Now it was time for the poetry, the public humiliation. I spent the next hour working faster and more creatively than I ever had. I conceived and implemented a new surprise server event. I called it the Festival of Lost Legends. I wrote the code for a new series of quests, spawned new NPCs, and wrote lore-filled items that would drop from creatures all over the world. I scheduled a server-wide broadcast at 8 p.m. server time. Every player online in Ethelgerd received the same notification. Server broadcasts. Hark, heroes. A new mystery unfolds. Travel to the capital city of Silverwood to speak with Lorekeeper Astra and begin the Festival of Lost Legends. Uncover the tale of a forgotten hero and earn unique rewards. Thousands of players, intrigued by the surprise event, flooded the capital. They found the new NPC, Lorekeeper Astra, whom I had placed in the center of the main square. The quest she gave was titled A Friendship Shattered. The quest text, written by me, told the story of two ancient champions, a noble priestess and a mighty warrior who sought a powerful artifact, the tear of the goddess. The quest led players on a journey, collecting faded memory fragments, lore items I had created. When pieced together, these fragments told a story. They spoke of the warrior's growing greed, of his false promises to the priestess. The final quest, the Serpent's Kiss, had players travel to a location near the Serpent's Maw to witness an echo of the past. There, they would see two ghostly NPC figures, a priestess and a warrior, defeat a great beast. And then they would watch in horror as the warrior NPC turned and struck down his friend, stealing the tear of the goddess for himself. The final quest reward was a unique vanity cloak called the Drape of Betrayed Trust. Its flavor text read, "Some victories leave a stain that can never be washed clean." I never used the names Seraphina or Zypher. I didn't have to. The entire server was abuzz. On the forums, on Discord, in general chat, players were piecing it together. The Crimson Legion's sudden collapse, Zypher's well-known obsession with legendary items, his subsequent disappearance from public view. My story, our story, had become server lore. Leo wasn't just a failed guild leader anymore. He was the villain in a morality play that thousands of people were now participating in. He was a meme, a pariah, a punchline. Now, it was time for the final confrontation. It was time for him to see my face. I logged out of the Warden account. My hands were steady as I logged back in as Seraphina. The familiar loading screen felt different now, charged with a sense of finality. I materialized in the lonely graveyard where I had been sent after he killed me. But I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I flew to the Serpent's Maw. I knew he'd be there. It was the scene of his greatest triumph and the beginning of his downfall. He was standing at the entrance, his character just standing there. A king, surveying the ruins of his kingdom. I landed softly behind him. I didn't say anything at first. I just let him feel my presence. He turned slowly. The sight of my character, Seraphina, in her white and gold robes, must have been like seeing a ghost. Zephyr, you. His single word was laced with a venom. I'd never heard from him before. Seraphina, me. I typed my reply calm and even. Zephyr. Was this you, all of it? The raid wipes? The bank bug? The quarantine? It was you, wasn't it? How? Seraphina, you were sloppy, Leo. All that RMT, all those items you stole from your own guild. You stored them all on one character. Banker boy, wasn't it? Very creative. I saw his character flinch. The blood must have drained from his face in his Miami apartment. This wasn't a guess. I knew. Zephyr. How could you possibly know that? Seraphina, I know everything. I know you were planning to sell the heart for 5,000 euros. I know you've been skimming from your guild for over a year. I know you betrayed me and dozens of others before me without a second thought. He was silent for a long moment, the digital air crackling between us. Zephyr, so you're a hacker. You ruined me. I'll report you. I'll have your account banned. I almost laughed. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Seraphina, you can try. I typed. But justice has a way of finding people like you, Leo. You built an empire on lies and betrayal. All I did was give it a little push dot as he was about to type a furious response. It happened. A new message appeared, not in the local chat, but in a brilliant gold font broadcast across the entire server for everyone to see. Ethelgard Game Masters, after a thorough investigation into large-scale illicit activities, the account belonging to the player, Zephyr, has been permanently banned for severe and repeated violations of the terms of service, including real money trading and account sharing. We thank the community for their diligence in helping us keep Ethelgard fair and fun for everyone. I watched as his character stood frozen for a second, and then he simply vanished. System, player Zephyr, has disconnected. It was over. I stood alone in the desolate wasteland, the server announcement still glowing in my chat box. The silence was absolute. My revenge was complete. Every pillar of his empire was gone. Every piece of his legacy was rewritten as a tale of villainy. I had won, but as I stood there, under the pale digital moonlight, the triumphant fire I had expected to feel in my chest was absent. There was just a profound, quiet emptiness. The golden letters of the server-wide announcement faded, but the ghost of them seemed permanently burned into my screen. Zephyr was gone. A phantom. Limb amputated. The general chat, a river of text on the left side of my screen, was flowing uncontrollably. Players were ecstatic. Justice had been served. The villain of the Festival of Lost Legends had gotten his canonical ending. They celebrated the swift, decisive action of the game masters, praising them for their diligence. But they had no idea that the divine intervention they were celebrating was the calculated, personal vendetta of one heartbroken girl in a quiet Stockholm apartment. I stood there as Seraphina, a statue in a wasteland of my own making. The fury that had fueled me for days, that cold, crystalline rage, had been completely spent. It left behind a vacuum, a profound and unsettling silence in my soul. I had expected to feel triumphant, vindicated, powerful. Instead, I just felt tired, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that had nothing to do with my lack of sleep. I had orchestrated a man's digital demise. I had dismantled his world with the precision of a demolitions expert. I had won, but what exactly was my prize? I logged out of Seraphine's account. The vibrant world of Ethelgerd dissolved, and I was left staring at my own reflection in the dark monitor. My hair was a mess. There were dark circles under my eyes, and my expression was one I didn't recognize. It wasn't the look of a victor. It was the look of a survivor after a battle she wasn't sure was worth fighting. With a sigh, I logged into the Warden console. The black screen with its white text felt cold and clinical. I navigated to the item administration menu. The quarantine case for the Heart of the World Serpent was still open, flagged for my attention. Case hashtag Q-9917 item LGND underscore 001 underscore Serpent Heart ST. Quarantined pending investigation REASON. Potential association with illicit third-party transactions. Owner Zypher UID 7781B4A2. Account Benetti was the investigator, the judge, and the jury. I typed in the resolution command //item.admin.resolve underscore case. ID Q9917 greater than set resolution. Owner account banned. Item to be redistributed. Greater than set justification. Item returned to original legitimate earner following fraudulent acquisition by banned party. Greater than. Recipient UID 1138C9F7 Serafina. I hit enter. A final, clean administrative action. The system processed it instantly. I sent the item to Serafina via the in-game mail system, the subject line simply reading restitution. Then I sat back, my hands falling from the keyboard. The Warden console, my instrument of godlike power, now seemed alien to me. The lines of code, the cascading data, it all felt like a foreign language. I had used this system, a system built on trust and neutrality, for something deeply personal. I had dressed my revenge in the robes of justice, but underneath, it was still just that. Revenge. My phone buzzed on the desk beside me. The caller ID was a name I hadn't seen in months. Marcus Thorne, my supervisor. The lead architect of the Warden program. A man who could read server logs like a novelist reads prose. My heart hammered against my ribs. The real reckoning was here. I let it ring 3 times before answering, my voice coming out as a dry croak. Hello? Alara. His voice was calm, measured, with the faint hint of a British accent. He was calling from the main office in London. I trust you're having an eventful afternoon. It was early afternoon in Stockholm. He knew I was awake. He knew everything. You could say that, Marcus, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Indeed, he said, and I could hear the faint click of his keyboard. We had quite a night. A major RMT ring crippled. A notoriously toxic player permanently removed. And a surprise player-allotted server event deployed with remarkable speed and thematic coherence. It's all very impressive. Efficient even. I stayed silent. This was his way. He would never accuse me directly. He would simply lay out the facts until I was cornered by them. It's just, he continued, his tone dangerously casual, that there are some anomalies that I'm having trouble squaring. A 1 in a billion data corruption error that just so happens to strike a key player in this RMT ring. A series of statistically impossible bad luck streaks for his guild. A server-wide questline that mirrors the exact circumstances of the player's eventual downfall, deployed without going through the usual 3 months of QA testing. It's almost as if the universe itself has a flair for the dramatic. My throat felt tight. Freak occurrences happen, I said weakly. They do, Marcus agreed. But they rarely happen in such a beautifully constructed narrative sequence. Alara, the purpose of the Wardens is to be the gardeners of Evilgard. We pull the weeds, we patch the holes, we maintain the ecosystem. We are not the gods of Ethelgard. We are not the hand of fate. The moment we start writing the story instead of just protecting the pages, the entire system becomes compromised. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. You did a good thing. You removed a cancer from this community. Your methods, however, were a step too far. You became the ghost in the machine, and that is a very dangerous thing to be. I closed my eyes, the truth of his words washing over me. He was right. I had enjoyed it. The power, the control, the feeling of pulling the strings. I had savored Leo's panic, his despair. That wasn't justice. That was cruelty. The emptiness I felt wasn't because my victory was hollow. It was because I didn't recognize the person I had become to achieve it. What happens now? I whispered. Leo Rossi is a known problem we've been trying to build a case against for months, Marcus said. You handed us his head on a platter, albeit a strange, poetically themed platter. So officially, this is a win. You'll receive a commendation for your part in the investigation. Another pause. Unofficially, I think you need a break, a long one. Step away from the Wharton program, Alara. Deactivate your credentials. I want you to remember what it feels like to just be a player again, to be a citizen, not the law. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order wrapped in the guise of a kindness. It was also exactly what I needed. I understand, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. I agree. Good, Marcus said, his voice softening. Take care of yourself, Alara, and try to have some fun. I hear the drape of betrayed trust has excellent stats for a vanity item. He hung up. I stared at my monitor for a long time. Then, with a few keystrokes, I navigated to the Warden credentialing system, admin, deactivate _self. Warning. This action is permanent and will require lead administrator approval to reverse. Are you sure you wish to deactivate your Warden privileges? YN? I typed Y and hit enter. Access deactivated. Goodbye, Warden. The black screen winked out of existence. It was done. I was just Alara again, just Serafina. A few weeks passed. The Festival of Lost Legends ended, leaving a permanent NPC in the city as a monument. The story of Zypher became a server legend. Fourleg and Miri started a new guild, the Silver Griffins, built on transparency and friendship. They sent me an invitation the day they formed it. I let it sit in my inbox, unanswered. The thought of joining, of trusting a group of people again, felt premature. This evening, the sun was setting over Stockholm, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink. I felt a strange urge, one I hadn't felt in a long time. The desire to just play. I logged into Ethelgard. Serafina materialized in the capital city. One had a mail notification. I opened it. It was the package from system administration. Inside was the heart of the world serpent. I took it out. It pulsed with a soft internal light, an object of immense power that had caused so much pain. I hesitated for a moment, then I equipped it. It wasn't a trophy. It wasn't a reminder of my revenge. It was a scar. A reminder of the line I had crossed, and a promise to myself never to cross it again. My character felt powerful, but I felt light, free. No more logs to check, no more tickets to resolve, no more secrets to keep. Another notification popped up. It was a guild invitation, the Silver Griffins. Miri must have sent it again. Miri, hey Alara, no pressure. But we're doing a run of the old-level dungeons tonight, for old time's sake. Just for fun. We'd love to have you. For fun. The words echoed in my head. When was the last time I had done something in this game just for fun? Before Leo, before the betrayal, before the all-consuming need for revenge. I looked at my character, Serafina, standing there in the bustling city square. The heart of the world serpent beating with a soft light under her robes. She was no longer a victim. She was no longer a vengeful god. She was just a priestess, looking for an adventure. My fingers moved to the mouse. I hovered over the decline button for a long moment, the familiar fear of being hurt again holding me back. But then I looked at the accept button. It represented a different kind of fear, the fear of being alone forever, the fear of letting what he did to me win. I took a deep breath and I clicked accept. System greater than. You have joined the guild, the Silver Griffons. Miri, welcome to the family. Alara, a smile, real and warm, touched my lips for the first time in what felt like an eternity. A new journey was beginning, and for the first time in a very long time, I had no idea where it was going. I was finally truly free.